Well, I gotta say I'm disappointed. After all the buzz that went into marketing this film, it sure arrived as a dazzlingly overhyped work of art. Now, the substance is good, but far from as great as people are making it seem. Here we have a film which is a neat and tidy 7 out of 10 being trumpeted as a 9. Coralie Farget is reaching for greatness with the substance, and while I don't think she achieves it, there is no denying that this is a solid film. So what exactly is the substance? It's an enjoyable excoriation of fame and female self-loathing. It's competently written and carried by a strong performance from Demi Moore and a competent Margaret Qualley. Our story follows Elizabeth Sparkle, the host of a popular but shrinking in audience TV aerobics show. She's fired on her 50th birthday due to her age and is in the pits as she has nothing other than a job to provide her with solace. To add insult to injury, she finds herself in a car accident not long after receiving the bad news. While in hospital, she is invited to partake in the substance by a strangely good-looking doctor. It's an experimental gene-altering goo that produces a superior clone of oneself. The result is that another being literally bursts forth from Elizabeth's back. Each being can have 7 days to do as they please while the other remains catatonic, but they must keep the other half alive and swap positions with them after this period, as damage to one will cause damage to the other. Elizabeth's alter is Sue, a stunningly good-looking young woman who snags Elizabeth's old role as aerobics instructor in a far more titillating version of her once esteemed show. Unfortunately, Elizabeth is having a midlife crisis when she's in control of the situation, and Sue is a rampaging narcissist, and so the two very quickly come to blows, each hurting the other. Now, Demi Moore is great, not because she gives us something we haven't seen before. Crazed woman with messy hair ranting is a tried and true image, but because she puts herself way out there for humiliation. It's a performance that some might call fearless, especially given how many of her early roles were built around her looks. It reminded me of Winona Ryder in Black Swan or Michael Keaton in Birdman. There's a weight behind the performance because she could almost be playing herself, and it takes a lot of guts even before you talk about the full frontal nudity, which is excessive. Margaret Qualley is just as game, though for me less impressive. I think her role as Sue is naturally superficial, given the nature of the character, and that works against her being perceived as delivering a great performance. Acting beautiful, vapid, and capricious is hardly difficult. A real strength which both women have going for them in the substance is a lot of their thinking is conveyed non-verbally. This allows each to shine as they're forced to communicate huge amounts of data without the aid of exposition. The first issue I had with the film is that men are either simps, morons, or despots. There should be a reverse Bechdel test for female writers where they must create at least one male character which isn't complete bullshit. It seems to me that women are just as incompetent as men are when it comes to writing believable characters of the opposite sex, and it's a real shame. How on earth will we ever unite in orgiastic harmony if we can't first understand one another? These are the kinds of things I talk about on a first date. The direction from Coralie Farget is a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks bonanza of extreme close-ups, canted angles, fast cuts, and jarring sound design, which I didn't hate, but wasn't impressed by either. It's a brutal combination of sight and sound that at times feels like the less exciting version of Requiem for a Dream. One of my favourite parts of the substance, though, is all thanks to Coralie. She beautifully displays the cruelty our heroine is willing to inflict upon herself to enjoy youthfulness. This is a very strong part of the film and is probably the reason people are praising it in the first place. Dennis Quaid is, while over the top to the point of being stupid, very good as well, and it was fun to see him in a notable film after what seems like 2 decades of made-for-TV movies. Another flaw, in my opinion, is that the substance is terribly self-indulgent. Now, I can already hear someone say, but that's the point, to which I would say you can express an idea without hitting me over the head with it. Because it's so indulgent, it's also far too long. This is a 90-minute film stretched out to a ridiculous 2 hours and 15 minutes. Nothing of value is added in the extra runtime other than more close-ups of Margaret Qualley's arse, which while gorgeous is not actually worth studying in minute detail. Scenes drag on for too long showing the same thing repeatedly, and dialogue is laughably on the nose to the point where I wondered if we were supposed to treat the film as something like The Marathon Man. Here's a quote from Stanley Kubrick. "Observancy is a dying art. The essence of dramatic form is to let an idea come over people without it being plainly stated." Coralie Fargett doesn't understand this, and so she makes everything as clear as day, and then reiterates her perspective a few dozen times more just in case you didn't get it the first time. But that's okay, you live and you learn. This is Coralie's second film and a testimony to her unique interests and talent for telling female stories which are challenging. As mentioned, it's a solid pick, and I'd suggest you give it a shot. Thanks for watching.